Hey there booktube, it's Charlotte and welcome back to Beetle Books. I thought I'm in comfy clothes. It's a cozy day, I can't speak. What a great time to film a video and try and catch up on the month I missed. Today I'm going to be doing my top 10 favourite books from 2016. There's a lot of Stephen King and I don't have all the books to show you. These are in no particular order, but here we go. First up is Misery by Stephen King. This book was about an author who gets in a car crash and breaks both of his legs, and he gets saved by this fan who loves his books, which are called Misery. They're about a character called Misery, but he wants to stop writing Misery, and the fan, she's mental. She keeps him in her house, and the tension and suspense in this book is crazy. It's written really brilliantly because it's Stephen King. I recommend that as a starting Stephen King book if you've never read any Stephen King. I think it's a good introduction to the way he writes. Kind of makes you cringe in a couple of places. It's a bit kind of grim. But it's good. Second is another Stephen King book, which is It. This is over 1,000 pages long. I think it's like 1,100. Crazy long book, but brilliant. It's about a group of kids who have to defeat it, and then they have to go back as adults and try and do it again, which is really interesting because obviously when you're a child you think in a very different way to the way you do as an adult. It's a really interesting book. The character development again is really great. Kind of scary, really scary if you're on your own in your flat and it's dark. You know when that epidemic came out with all the clowns? I was reading It at that time and I was in the house alone and I was so scared I had to stop reading it. It's not even really that scary. But third on my list apparently is Under the Dome, again by Stephen King. This was the first one I read, and I read this at the start of the year. I think this is actually the first book I read last year. Stephen King's endings aren't that great. I didn't really enjoy the ending of Under the Dome, but the rest of the book was so good it didn't matter. This book is about a town that gets trapped under a dome and they have to figure out what's caused the dome. They can't contact the outside world. You just see kind of how the relationships in the town change and how people try and get in power and how it all goes a bit crazy. 4. Not a Stephen King book. The Martian. I can't remember who it's by, I'll put it up. I don't have this one with me either because I borrowed it again, but this was great. Even though it was the scientific language, I still understood everything that was going on. The Martian is the book about the guy who goes to Mars and ends up getting stuck there and he has to try and survive. 5 is the Grisha trilogy, which I have, by Leigh Bardugo, which is Shadow and Bone, Ruin and Rising, and Siege and Storm. Brilliant books. It's everything you could want from a YA trilogy, I think. It's really well written. It's about these 3 main characters really, Alina, Mal, and the Darkling. I don't know how to talk about it without giving anything away, so if you like fantasy, if you like YA fantasy, I definitely recommend go read it. Number 5 is my favourite book of all time. It's Joyland by Stephen King. This, I actually haven't read this copy. This is a really lovely copy that my boyfriend got me, which is illustrated. It's so cool. I love it. I love this book. This is kind of a boring story, really, in a way. It's just about a guy who for the summer goes and works in a theme park. And there's mysteries in the theme park. A girl got murdered there, but actually that isn't really mentioned that much in the story. I mean, it's marketed as a crime novel. This book's more about the characters and just who they are. I am horrifically bad at describing books. It's really good for a booktuber, isn't it? 7 is Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafron. I have no idea how to say that name, but it's there. This is a historical fiction novel set in Spain. In 1945, the character's dad owns a bookshop called the Cemetery of Forgotten Books, which is, how cool is that name? It says a labyrinth library of obscure and forgotten titles, and he finds a book called Shadow of the Wind, and there's all this mystery behind the book. Most of the copies got burnt. All the other books by this author have been burnt. There's only a couple of copies left, and he ends up getting into some trouble because of it. It's so amazingly written. It's a beautiful book. Number 8 is Brisinga and Inheritance by Christopher Paolini. I should remember that. I love this series. I finished the Eragon series this year. It was emotional. It's got everything you want. Dragons and stuff. Just awesome. I was kind of behind the boat with Eragon, but I wish it wasn't over. Number 9 is Water for Elephants, which is about this kind of circusy... I think it's a circus? Yeah, it's a circus and it's this really creepy, dark story. All of the characters are kind of a bit mean and gritty. I read it so long ago I can't remember how to describe it brilliantly, but it's just a fiction novel that is beautifully written. It's really dark. It's got this carnival style about it. Fantastic. Finally, my last favourite of this year was The Danish Girl by David Ebershoft. I can't do it. This book is about the first transgender in history. It's based on a true story, I think. It's not the true story. But I loved this book. It was really endearing, the characters were really well written. It made me want to paint a lot because the girl character in this paints a lot. But it was just wonderful, well written and well told. So that's my favourite books of 2016. I apologise that I am completely rubbish at explaining the plot of books. Hopefully I'll get better by practicing it and maybe looking into the books before I do a video on them instead of just trying to remember it all. Either way, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have a lovely day and I shall see you next time. And as always, if you want to come find me on Twitter, I'm going to try and use Twitter more because I've heard people say that if you want to get into the BookTube community more, you have to go on Twitter. So I'm going to try and do that and yeah, hit me up. I don't know how this works. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know. I don't even know how to tag people in tag videos. How do you know if you've been tagged in a video? I'm pretty sure I haven't, but I don't know. I mean, unless, like, I try to watch every video that comes up. I'm gonna stop blabbering. Have a lovely day and I shall see you next time. Bye! I don't know.